Hey, so this is Jessica, and today is my oldest daughter's 13th birthday, and we're out at the lake. She wanted to go fishing for her birthday, and it's beautiful scenery, so I thought that it might be a good place to make a video. So today I decided that I wanted to talk to you a little bit about homeschooling and how we homeschool and why we homeschool. We actually started homeschooling my first daughter, Jalen, when she was around 5 to 6 years old, and we had talked about what school that she would go to, and we had bought some property, and we were thinking that we were going to sell our house and build a house on the new property being in the same district, but she would go to a different school. Well, I had it in my mind that I didn't want her to have to switch around schools, so we were kind of trying to see how we could get her into the school where the property was. Well, to make a very long story short, we didn't end up building a house on that property. We ended up selling it several years later. It was when the market went bad in 2008, and we bought the property right before that bust happened, so we were stuck with it for a while until we were able to sell it. Definitely a learning moment for us. So the next step, we talked about private schools, and there were a couple private schools, Christian private schools in our area, and we talked about tuition, we talked about touring these places, and somewhere along the line, someone mentioned online schooling. Now, up to this point, my husband had actually been pretty much against homeschooling. Neither one of us really knew any homeschoolers. We had no exposure to homeschooling, and he just felt like we weren't equipped to homeschool. But somebody along the line mentioned online schooling, and so I started looking into programs like K-12 and that kind of stuff. Found a friend at church who actually homeschooled her children, and she informed me that K-12 and those types of programs are not actually homeschooling. They're virtual schools. They're virtual public school essentially, and they don't fall under the same homeschool laws. So I guess if you're thinking about homeschooling, probably the first thing I would do is to look up your homeschool law in your state, because each state varies from state to state with their laws, and obviously to be lawful you have to adhere to your homeschool laws. South Carolina is our permanent state of residence, and so South Carolina's laws are not that strict, but like I said, you'll have to look up your specific state's homeschool laws. A really great website for that is Homeschool Legal Defense, and I will put that in the box below the video. I'm drawing a blank right now as to what it's called, but I'll put that link there for you to be able to click on it. So we started looking into the online schooling, and that's where it really started for me. I started Googling about the online schooling, and then when my friend told me that the online schooling was actually a virtual public school and we would have to adhere to the public school rules, and then I started researching our state law and realized that there was a whole lot of freedom in just going by the state homeschool law. And in South Carolina, like, I was able to use my own curriculum, and I wasn't limited. I didn't have to do a specific time. So it was really flexible. So then I started looking at homeschool curriculum, and really the amount of homeschool curriculum will absolutely blow your mind. It's insane how much curriculum there is available. If you're thinking about homeschooling, going to a homeschool convention, I don't know if it really helps or if it really makes it more difficult, because you're talking about like a gymnasium or larger, just jammed packed of curriculum options. And really probably it really boils down to your style as to what you choose. And I think that curriculum styles and teaching styles is a whole nother video, because you can get into really a lot with that. But we decided to try homeschooling, and my husband said, well, we'll try it for kindergarten, because you can't really mess up your kid in kindergarten, right? So he said, well, we'll try it for a year and we'll see how it goes. And that was in 2010, and it's now 2008, and Jalen has finished up the 8th grade, and I have never regretted one day homeschooling. There's lots of people that say, oh, I could never homeschool, I'm not patient enough. Well, I'm not very patient, and my advice is always to parents that if your child can read, once your child learns to read, they can teach themselves just about anything. You know, and as an adult, you know, what do I do when I want to learn about something? I'll get a book from the library, I'll order a book on Amazon. Usually the first place I go is Google. I'll Google it, I'll read about it, read on Wikipedia, whatever about it. If you can read, then you can teach yourself essentially anything. And you would be surprised at how easy it is actually to teach your children to read. They're little sponges and they just soak up everything. Curriculum choices. Again, like I said, curriculum choices they're never ending, quite honestly. But what we started with was Bob Jones. That's what my friend used, and we used Bob Jones for kindergarten. I tried Sunlight in the 1st grade, but I was working full-time at the time. I was working full-time weekends, night shift, and at that point, Sunlight was too much for me. There was a whole lot of reading, and I wasn't able to keep up with it. But the amazing thing about Sunlight is that they have a guarantee that if you don't love it, you can send it back. And that's exactly what we did. I boxed everything up and sent it back, and they gave me a full refund. You know, even though we had used the product, they gave me a full refund, which was amazing. So I did end up going back to Bob Jones after that in 1st grade, after using Sunlight, because it was just overwhelming at the time for me with working full-time. But I've used all kinds of things over the years. I really love the concept of classical education, and so we did some of that. But once we started traveling, actually the year before we started traveling, we started using Sunlight again, because I just absolutely love Sunlight. And I guess too, that is its own blog post or video post that I'll come back to, because I could talk about that all day. But that's kind of how homeschooling happened to us. And I say that it kind of happened to us. I feel like we were supposed to do it. I don't want to be melodramatic about anything, but it kind of just all fell into place. And I have never, ever regretted it. It's been a wonderful experience. It's been very flexible, and my children are thriving. So that's how we started our homeschool journey. If you enjoyed this post and you would like to see more, please like and subscribe, and leave a comment for me. Thank you so much. Bye.